Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I'm joined by Randi Botnick. She is a psychic healer, spiritual counselor, and author. She offers powerful physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual transformation to empower your sovereignty. Randi, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you, as am I. Very happy. Yes.
So we're just gonna jump right in, and here we
Now
go.
that, now that we already feel like best friends, let's just do it.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. I really do. So, Randi, your journey as a psychic healer and spiritual counselor began in 1997 with certifications in, I'm going to mispronounce this type of Reiki. Can you say that? Skate?
Yes.
What is that?
It's Sekem Sekim Reiki.
Thank you. And and yoga therapy. How did these early experiences shape your path in the healing and spiritual realms?
Well, what was interesting is that I started with the Reiki, which first was Reiki, and then I found Sekem Sekim Reiki and was really drawn to it for no particular reason that I knew of. But it's a bunch of different energies together, and so it creates this beautiful sort of octave of energy that we're using to heal. And then I was looking for sort of something to do alongside that, and I found yoga therapy. And when I went and took the program, it was also incredibly energetic, where we would do these guided visualizations where we would literally feel our energy field and become aware of ourselves from that perspective. And so this was just where I was drawn in my life. I was just drawn into the field of energy work. I didn't actually know anybody else doing it at the time, 1997. And so I, so I,
Guys, there's some energy coming in. All right. You
yeah,
channel galactic beings, and I'm an energy healer, and you're an energy healer. So things are going to get a little wonky. So please continue.
you got it. So what was happening was that I was actually getting clients. And this was at a time when nobody really knew what it was. I literally hung a flyer up in Whole Foods, and I got all these people coming to me. And I realized I was really good at it. I was really moving things for people and making them feel better. So that's how everything started. And I just, I don't know, like they say in the showbiz, like I got the bug, and I just kept wanting to learn more and more and more.
I completely understand that. So, in addition to your these modalities, you're trained in clinical hypnotherapy and the result system.
Right.
How do these techniques complement your healing work, especially in accessing and transforming subconscious beliefs?
Well, I needed some CEU credits, right? And so a friend of mine really highly recommended clinical hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I took a program, I really wanted to only do past life regressions. So I found this amazing clinical hypnotherapy program where I got to do a lot of past life regressions. That in of itself taught me so much about how the soul travels.
Oh, cool.
And this like multi-dimensional aspect to the soul and to our lifetimes and how lifetimes intersect. I had people going into past lifetimes that really would have happened 50 years ago. So like, how could that have even happened, sort of thing. And yeah, so that more than anything, the result system is really interesting because it's an incredibly deep system for emotional healing and getting to the core of things, and just like changing the way the brain responds to stress. So it was great for my private clients to do a little bit of both of that. But they both kind of pushed me forward spiritually, because I was learning again so much more about how our brains work, how the body works, how the spirit moves through lifetimes and finds out its own challenges and all of that.
That's amazing. Now, as a psychic healer, let me ask you this. Have you always been psychic since you were born, or is this something that you grew into?
It's something I grew into, actually. I was always one of those kids with a super active imagination, but the beginning years of Reiki really opened something up for me psychically.
Mhm.
And then the more courses I took, but also the practice, I was lucky enough to have a lot of private clients. And so I could practice, practice, practice. And I was
Yeah.
always, when I would, come up upon an issue that I didn't understand necessarily, I would just get quiet and say, show me what this is, show me what this is, show me what this is. And so I was developing my psychic abilities. And they just started opening up. And about 10 years ago, I said, I think I could probably channel. I want to see if I can do this. And so I invited friends over and I said, I want you to ask me questions that I don't know the answers to. And I want to see what I can do here. And it was very successful. And I realized, wow, I can actually get information. And then over time, I realized that everybody giving me information was really of the galactic nature more than anything else.
That leads me to my next question. She's not psychic or anything. So you've channeled various galactic groups since 2010,
Yeah,
including the Ashtar Command and the Arcturians. Can you
yeah.
maybe share some insights into the messages or guidance you received from these wonderful, amazing beings?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I want to preface this by saying that I
Sure.
didn't know anything about these beings prior to channeling them. Ashtar was the first one that came to me and very clearly and very specifically said, call me Ashtar. And I looked around all over the place and found him in one of my books. And I was like, oh, this is like a real thing. It was shocking to me. I had no idea. Ashtar was amazing because all of their information came to me through colors.
Oh, interesting.
And they wanted me to know that they experienced emotion as color.
Oh,
And
wow.
they showed me these rainbows and were teaching me about how they felt and how color feels. And so it was perfect for me because I have synesthesia, which is the ability to translate anything into color.
Right.
So the fact that they came to me with these brilliant, they actually look like xylophones. You know the kids xylophones?
Yes. Yeah. Like the little, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
happy. I'm sad.
yeah. And I would see these groups of them and they would trail these beautiful rainbow lights and everything. It was really beautiful. Um, and a little bit later, I don't know if it was a year or two, whatever, I was doing some yoga by myself and I could feel something. It was like something was nudging me, like
Mm.
trying to get my attention. And I stopped and I said, you're welcome to come through me. And they said, we would like you to be our voice. And I said, who are you? And they said, the Federation of Councils. And for many years, I channeled them. I wrote my book with them. They wrote my book for me. They channeled that book through me. Yep. I'll tell you more about that. Um, they were with me for many years. And then a year ago, the Arcturians popped in and they were like, look, the changes that are going on the planet right now, we have a lot to say. We can explain to you what's going on and we want to talk to you. And then, so they gave a lot of information like that. I was doing channelings with them twice a week for months and months. And then
Wow.
suddenly out of nowhere, a whole other group came through. It was like a whole different feeling through my body. And they're with me to this day. They call themselves the Starseed Nation. And they're masters. I've really come to understand that not one of us is not a starseed. Every single
Mm.
person has galactic roots
Yes,
that,
definitely.
that actually humans have encoded in our DNA um, genes from 23 different galactic, you know, planets. And so we are that. And these beings are just like, hey, popping in to kind of give us some guidance right now, some beautiful, beautiful guidance about our oneness and about our joy, about the earth, the planet, and what's going on with her, about, you know, what's going on with us right now at this
Yeah.
time, all of that.
As you're saying it, I can feel the energy shifting. I love it. I love it. When I do Akashic
Yeah.
Records readings, they definitely come in. I have a lot of different galactic beings. And I love that you're a channel and that it seems like you've done a lot of this work before it's become more mainstream, you know, from doing this since
Yeah.
1997. Like it's fascinating. And I commend you for staying on your path and truly honoring your journey, you know, because some
Thank you.
people may have been like, I'm good. You know.
Seriously, I always called myself the amazing conversation stopper. Like at a party, someone would say, "What do you do?" And I would say, "I'm an energy healer," and everybody would go dead. And then they kind of walk away and start talking to somebody else.
I will say that I feel like that in my line of work. I'm a registered nurse and I run a doctor's office.
Right,
And I'm like, I'm a master IET healer. And they're like, okay, like
right,
good to know. I'm like,
right.
but the energy of this office is very nice and you're welcome.
There you go. Yeah, what people don't know, right?
So true. So true. So let me ask you this. So this is another thing. This may go with the channeling, and I'm not 100% sure. You mentioned your healing work is now assisted by the Thorians. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about these beings, their role in your practice, and the unique qualities that they bring to healing?
Sure. Wow. So there are two different things right now for me, right? Is the healing work with the Thorians and the channeled
Mm,
messages with the Starseed Nation, and they work side by side but not together.
gotcha.
Okay. So the Thorians are really interesting. My understanding is that they've never been to this galaxy before, but that
Wow.
yes, but that there are maybe 1,000 people or something on the planet working with them,
Nice.
and that I had they told me, and I envisioned that an aspect of me at one point in time over the course of whatever eons actually trained with them so that I could be a healer now, and that they came through to also sort of return the favor, and that they're amazing. They first of all, when they first came to me, it was really clear that they had never worked with humans before because they were constantly going like, "What is that?" You know, like,
I love that.
"What is that?" And,
I love that.
and I would say, you know, this person needs healing on from this trauma, and they'd be like, "Why are they holding that trauma?" I'm like, "Okay, let me explain." You know, so it was an interesting thing where I was teaching them about the
Wow.
human energy system so they could work on it. They brought some very interesting new uh, technology to the healing work. This is stuff that is not physical, it's things that I see in my mind's eye that they
Mm,
do for people.
nice.
And the healings are really quick. People feel differences very quickly, and the Thorians go deeper with people. Um, than maybe the Federation of Councils did. They're just, I don't know how to say it, they're just kind of a different personality that comes through, and um, they they really want to understand the complexity of the human being and the human energy system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds so interesting. Now, before I ask you next question, do you still do one-on-one sessions or do you do more
Yes.
like, okay, perfect.
Yes, I do both. I do the one-on-one sessions and the channeling work.
I love that. I'm suddenly so excited. So let's talk about your book. Foundations of Energy Healing offers insights into spiritual progression, energy systems, intuition development, and working with spirit guides. What inspired you to write this book, and maybe what are some key teachings that you hope readers will take away from it?
Okay. Um, this book to me is the book that I wish I had had when I started healing. You know, I was getting information from all sorts of different sources from the yoga world, you know, so Ayurveda, some Chinese medicine, you know, Shakti Gawain and other amazing, brilliant, you know, like Carolyn Mace and all these wonderful, amazing, brilliant authors. And I just wanted something all in one place. And so the book talks about the earth changes that we're going through, the ascension process that we're going through. It talks about how to understand intuition so it doesn't feel so scary. I've talked to a lot of people who get really scared by their intuition or really freaked
Yeah.
out. And I wanted to just like, let everybody know that intuition is completely natural,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally is the sixth sense. And as we're moving into higher consciousness, higher levels of awareness, the sixth sense is completely waking up, and we're going to find that everybody has it.
True.
And
Very true.
yeah, and then what you can do with it, kind of. It's like what you can do with it, which is you can connect to your spirit guides or healing guides and have them work on you. And so I go through that in detail in the book, and then I describe the human energy system in detail as well, which some people have said reads like a textbook. I honestly did not write it thinking that at all. I thought it was kind of fun. Like, oh, this is just how it works. And you
Listen,
can
that means I'm gonna love it. So I love like things that read like I do. I love it.
oh,
I'm
good.
excited. Just gotta
Yeah.
finish it, guys.
So I wanted to pull together the whole picture of the human energy field,
Yeah.
and how it goes out and it goes in and all that. And then there's a whole couple sections in there on working on yourself emotionally and energetically, and all sorts of different techniques that you can incorporate into just your life or your healing practice.
That's beautiful. I would definitely recommend anyone that's interested in energy healing check this out. I also like that it's not very long. Like
Yeah.
it's like a bite-sized book with a lot
Right.
of information.
Yeah.
So piece it out one chapter at a
Oh,
time.
and if you don't mind, if I could say, there's
Oh, of
also
course.
a
I'm sure
there's
there's
also
more coming, guys.
I hope so. But there's also a video training of that on my website as well.
Yes. So let me ask you this. Um, my mind is going to like a couple different questions here. I love the fact that your healing technique is really very it's very full of a lot of modalities that are blended together.
Yeah.
And really anyone that is looking for, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional healing, you can offer all of that in a healing package. Like, I just think that's so phenomenal. And do you find like, let me ask you this, do you have like clients that come to you? Do you find like there's a theme with your clients? Like you'll have a run of people that are, heart hurt, or there may be physical ailments. Do you find that like it kind of goes in waves?
Yes, I do. I do. The initial wave was women who were sexually abused, actually. That
Ooh,
was the initial wave. I remember
yeah.
from years and years and years ago. And now the most recent wave are survivors of narcissistic relationships. There's a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And
so true.
yeah. And so I do work with both men and women, but you know, yeah, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of
It is
trauma.
interesting how I don't know I know that's kind of like an off topic like thing, but it's interesting as a healer how things come to us in waves. Like I find, people like you said, maybe sexual abuse, maybe they have a family member that committed suicide, maybe there's a lot of mental health, and it definitely, and I think it kind of ties into where the collective consciousness is, and also probably the shifting of all the energies that are coming onto the planet. Like
Yes.
there's just so much energy that's coming onto the planet. Like you're like, oh my
Yeah, yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, and a lot of healing of the paradigm, or the paradigms that have been in
Yes.
place. And so I do think that different people are ready to move through that at different times. Yeah.
100%. And definitely like when it's ready to disconnect from certain matrices,
Yeah.
like it's interesting when that happens. I'm really like, oh my goodness. So let me ask you this. As we navigate the challenges of living in a higher frequency and staying connected to our truth, what practical advice can you offer to our listeners who are seeking to align with our authentic selves and embrace their own spiritual journeys?
Mm. Well, this is the biggie. Okay. This is sort of the big secret that we haven't had until now, which is that we no longer are praying for something. We're no longer praying to something or someone outside of ourselves. From now on, yeah, from now on, all prayer exists in the heart because our God self or higher self exists actually inside the body, not outside the body. We're not going out there anymore. And I say that as someone who's channeling beings who are out
Right,
there.
right. But it's
But
different.
yeah, but it's different because
Yeah.
from my own spiritual practice of moving through my life, I know that it all stems from me connecting to me from the internal, not praying to an external God anymore. And that's the big thing. That's sort of the next wave of spirituality is understanding the need to not just go into some place that's silent, but to go into the place that's actually alive inside of us and filled with the spark of creative energy, meaning literally creative energy. Literally, it comes from us.
That's very beautiful.
It's
So let me ask you this. In your healing practice, you help clients experience freedom, embrace their divine energy, and live with trust and optimism. Can you maybe share a memorable transformation story where a client's life was profoundly impacted by your work?
I can't tell you anyone who hasn't, honestly,
I love it.
but let me tell you this.
Okay.
I've worked with a beautiful client of mine for 6 years. His name, I'm not gonna tell you his name.
No
Yeah,
names.
no names.
HIPAA compliant.
Sorry. But he's been paraplegic since he was 18 and he's now close to 70. And the very first time he came to me, he never told me before he got there. This was hands-on healing, so he never told me before he got there that he was in a wheelchair. But I got him on the table and I was doing energy work on him, and he could feel his legs and feet for the first time in 50 years. He could feel them, vibrating, and he left with the knowledge that he was whole. And he never felt that since he was 18. He was numb from the waist down, not quite the waist, like just above the knees down. And he just considered his legs to be dead. And he has been on this path of like understanding and knowing that if that he might have been different, if he had had some kind of energy healing at the time of his accident. But like he woke up in such a profound way, and we've been working together pretty consistently for all these years.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So before I ask you the last question, if anyone is interested in working with you, what is the best place for them to go to?
My website is just my name, randibotnick.com. That's the best place. And I do have a Facebook link on there. I'm not even gonna. It's Randi Botnick Psychic Healer is my Facebook page,
Nice.
and YouTube is actually what I meant. YouTube, and I'm putting a lot more channeled messages up on YouTube. It's sort of I'm in the process of doing that, but there's a lot on there already, and there'll be a lot more in the future.
I love that. I love that. So, best friend, Randi.
Yeah.
We like to invite our listeners to kind of contribute their insights and advice based on your bio. If you, as a listener, I don't know why. This is a very weird question that I wrote. So, you know what? That's not good. So, Randy, if you have any tips or any advice, maybe just one piece of advice for somebody who's now going through a spiritual awakening, what piece of advice would that be? Because that last question was terrible. I apologize to all the listeners.
No problem. Um, it's a complicated thing, right?
Right.
Because I think a few things when I think of spiritual awakening. One is I think that people become aware, and I'm going to be controversial here, but I think people become aware that organized religion doesn't suit them anymore.
Right.
So there's that. I think people may have, psychic openings that can be concerning. And I would just say that we're all on this path together to wake up, and we're all going to be moving in the same direction. So don't be afraid. Find other people online or in your community who are going through it, and join a community of people who can support you through that.
Right.
Because it's actually really exciting, really, really exciting.
It really is. It's an exciting time to be on a spiritual path. I think it's
Yeah,
very exciting. The energy and
yeah.
everything that's shifting. It's fascinating and it's phenomenal. I love it. Well, Randy, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I definitely look forward to speaking with you again soon.
You too. Thank you so much.